No moderators here. Moderators help people feel safe. Okay. Nothing like that here. A little windy. Let's get you closer. Get this adjusted. Okay. And there we are. No go live yet. I'm sure there will be. So. Anyway, so I cut this piece of wood. How long ago did I cut it? This was 5 years ago. There was an ice storm in Oklahoma, and I saw this old man. He had one leg. He was in his front yard, and he was cleaning up all these branches that this tree kept on dropping. So this tree, I've seen it for the past decade. I always remembered it because it was a burly, clustered tree. So I had the opportunity. I pulled into his driveway. I said, "Can I cut this tree down for free?" And the reason I said that is because there was degraded branches in the top, and I saw that it was kind of a hazardous tree for him. So I offered to cut the tree down. I knew the city was going to haul all the limbs off, so I took like the perfect opportunity to cut this tree down, and I actually fell on 23rd Street. It was pretty crazy. So I was trying to get it to fall a little bit more left. I knew it was going to fall on 23rd Street. We closed down, this situation. I fell it on 23rd Street. It took me probably 30 to 45 seconds to, slice and dice so we can get a few of the limbs off the street. And after that, cars were able to resume. But yeah, I did fall this tree on 23rd Street in Oklahoma City. Beautiful tree. I'm curious if you guys know what species this tree would be. So this is a red elm tree. Beautiful grain. It doesn't really do it justice, but there's a lot of skulls, a bunch of tight grain clusters in this tree. Absolutely phenomenal. I'm going to show you one more, and then I have hundreds of them, but these are just two that are my favorite. So people always tell me this looks like a chicken fried steak, and I think that's pretty funny because I had a chicken fried steak a few days ago, and I think that it's pretty accurate. So pretty interesting piece. This is a pecan burl. Wood-Mizer. So this is all I do. I've been working myself for 15 years. I cut a bunch of wood. I cut a bunch of wood for people. Yeah, let's go. That was me. So yeah, my bad. Sorry about that. So yeah, I cut a bunch of wood for people. This is all I do. I take this Wood-Mizer out, and yeah, I bring it to someone's property. Let's say you have a bunch of logs in Oklahoma. I bring this to your property and I cut your logs. I cut 60 to 70 logs in a day if you really want to get active. So cut over 10,000 logs in the past 7 or 8 years. I've been pulling wood off a Wood-Mizer for over a decade. I remember when Oklahoma City sawmill was up and running. I remember when Tim was cutting all the logs that I brought him, pulling the slabs off the mill, and so on and so forth. So lots of great times. I learned a lot on that very old machine. I think it's a 1990s model, and I learned a lot from it. Lots of things that were improper. They didn't ever change their blades. I don't have any brand new blades with me right here. They're all at my house. It's like 30 years old at my house. You want to see a bunch of blades, There's 300 behind you. Just cut myself. This is what a blade looks like. So a blade looks like this. So there's 300 blades right here. These are all one-time use. Sometimes I use them 6 or 7 hours, and I retire them. They can be resharpened. I will get a resharpener. Resharpener costs $5,000. I prefer to pay $27 a blade right now. One day I will, throw all those blades through a sharpener. I will say a sharpener is going to take up real estate. That's going to take up probably a 10 by 10 area. I don't have a 10 by 10 area right now at this time to allocate to a sharpening system. So all those blades are the same length that I need for this particular machine. This is my second Wood-Mizer. My first Wood-Mizer, it was a great machine. It had a gasoline engine. Nothing wrong with the gasoline engine. I was able to accomplish everything I am able to do now with my gasoline engine previously, which had over 500 hours on it before I sold it. I sold it during COVID. People were going crazy. People were like restricted. People were going nuts. Going to the store getting toilet paper. Like, it was super crazy. Like, everybody was like, "Oh, I gotta stay home." It's like there was no restrictions on me. I've been working for myself for I think almost 16 years now. Just working myself, from remodeling houses to doing tile, tens of thousands of square feet of tile, lots of bathroom remodels, pour the shower pan, all the tile, the granite, drywall paint, floor tile, baseboards, all that stuff. So at one point in time, I would say around 10 years ago, I started taking trees off of my property that we used to own. My father died last year, but yeah, we used to own a bunch of property, and I was harvesting trees off this property. And these trees were cedar trees. They were kind of in our way, and we heard that they sucked a lot of water out of our land. So we were trying to eliminate the cedar trees. So I started harvesting all these cedar trees. And it was a great situation because I took these cedar trees and I took them to a sawmill, a different sawmill, not my sawmill. I had to pay for this. So it was kind of like, well, this is kind of expensive, is you don't know what you're gonna have to pay, and it's like gonna cost you $300 or $400 to take these logs to, a sawmill, and I continued to do that, and I actually did that for 3 or 4 years. I was taking logs to a sawmill. They would cut my logs. I wouldn't know what I would expect as far as pricing goes. I wouldn't know exactly when I was going to receive my logs, and that's why in the year 2017 I decided to buy my first sawmill, and I got the LT40. The gasoline engine, COVID hit, people freaking out. I sold it top of the market, sold it more than I paid for it, purchased this one for $40,000. It cost me $60,000 to replace right now. It's crazy. 2020 cost me $40,000 in 5 years. Now it costs $60,000. My price has just increased recently. My price per hour on cutting is $150 an hour. It used to be $100 an hour. I was at $100 an hour for over 7 years. I've cut over 10,000 logs, and I've sold tens of thousands of slabs. So I feel like with all the increases of prices I incurred, like every single year my blades went up. Every single year my insurance went up. Every single year this storage unit went up. Every single year this went up. Everything went up every single year, year after year after year. I never increased my price because I was trying to make it affordable for people to pay $100 an hour for me to cut their wood. Unfortunately, me cutting wood at $100 an hour just doesn't make sense, because I see many people around the country cutting for a lot more than that. And then I see people that have like a Harbor Freight Woodlands mill charging $125 an hour, and I can run circles around that person. I've cut like 70 logs in a day before. So whenever I come out to your property and I'm charging $150 an hour, that price starts whenever I get this sawmill unfolded and ready to go. Ideally, I need to walk up to this front where this light's going to turn off, and I'm sure that would be you wouldn't be able to see anything. So every 10 or 15 minutes, this light goes off, which is unfortunate. But you have to do what you have to do. So this is what I have to work with. I consider myself a micro sawmill, and I will contest that many people, most people, whenever you think of a sawmill, they have a sawmill, they have some space, you see logs everywhere, you see skid steers, you see many people that are helping, buildings, electricity, lots of expense. My expense is minimum. I've always kept my expenses minimum. My total expense as a business owner for this particular business, I have 4 different businesses with my wife and stuff like that. Anyway, so this particular business, my total expense on a monthly basis is going to be $351 a month. that's for this storage unit. So I actually want to eliminate my expenses. I don't plan to like incur more expenses. Like if this storage unit went up to whatever the price was, I would pay it. But eventually, I am going to buy a piece of land. Like, you know, I want to go buy a piece of land like in cash, you know, and then like purchase like a shop, like a really big shop, like spend $50,000 on like a shop, and like have these things situated, and then like still live in my house, but have this property that's secure because I have a secure property. I potentially have one of my helpers, living there, and they're securing the property. I'm able to have this situation at a property that I own versus throwing money down the drain. I know this is only $350 a month, and those are my expenses on a monthly basis. I do plan on decreasing my expenses because if I can own the property and have a mortgage or a note on it, I feel that's like just a better situation because I do plan to grow one day. One day, like I want to go buy a skid steer. Like I could go buy a skid steer right now, but like, is it smart for me to buy a skid steer when it would stay in my backyard right now? It's not necessarily smart to do that. And also, I think that there's going to be some opportunities ahead of us where I'm going to be able to snag some equipment at a good price because I'm ready. I could, not make $1 for the next few years and still like pay my mortgage and do those things. Like I'm not living on a monthly basis, situation. I would highly recommend if you buy one of these sawmills, just know that it's going to be lots of work. I believe that you can do it. Just know that if you have a payment on a sawmill, you might not have workload in that particular month to make that payment. So ideally you have like your side job or your main job, like your main source of income, and maybe you finance one of these machines. Just make sure you have the cash flows to pay for the machine. When I buy these machines, I pay for them in cash. I don't like having like to pay people back. Like the only thing I like to pay people back is gonna be like a house and a truck. Other than that, credit cards, spending money that I don't have doesn't make sense. I like to save money. I'm very frugal with my money. So that's my spiel about maybe finances. I'm no financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Anyways, anytime I sell a piece of wood, I buy Bitcoin. That's been the case for the past 2 years. So yeah, so anytime I sell a piece of wood, I buy Bitcoin. And the only reason I see that is because it just only makes sense to accumulate and stack Bitcoin because like the US dollar, like it just continues to lose purchasing power. Like I spent $40,000 in 2020 for this, and now it cost me $60,000. Like I think the price actually increased again because of these tariffs that are going on. So like you see all these prices that are just continuing to go in front of you. Like that's why I had to raise my prices for $150 an hour. What's crazy is like I have many people on the schedule to cut wood for them. I'm cutting wood for somebody on Monday, and they didn't bat an eye for $150 an hour. I'm going to go cut their logs. They're going to pay me $150 an hour, and I'm going to, produce. They're going to have their slabs. They're going to be happy. I've cut for over 233 people in the state of Oklahoma. So I go out to these properties, cut hundreds of logs, people, dozens of logs, just a few logs. I slice their wood up. I used to do it at $100 an hour. Now it's $150. It's not that big of an increase. There's a setup fee also, but I feel like it's totally worth it. I think it's necessary for me to bring a $60,000 machine out. I can't just charge you $100 an hour. There's people that will charge you $100 an hour to take their phone call. My name is Will, and I'm your therapist, and he's going to talk to you for an hour. He's going to charge you $100 an hour. I'm bringing out an asset. There's liabilities. There's risk involved. There's lots of hard work. Every time I bring this machine out, I draw blood in some shape or form. I do wear gloves. I can maintenance everything about this machine, from the alignment to the engine to, just there's many things that go with this machine that you need to be able to fix. So if you plan on getting a Wood-Mizer, don't just think you're just going to take it to the Wood-Mizer store down the street. You might live by a Wood-Mizer, you might very well could do that, but know that you have to kind of rely on yourself to get the job done. I have been working for myself for 15 years, so whenever I set out to do things, I accomplish my goals. I was looking for my phone. I'm looking at my phone. There's over 5,000 contacts in my phone backed up, saved in the past 15 years. Anybody I've ever ran in contact that comes in contact with me, I save your number. There's customers that will call me. I gathered their information 7 years ago because they called me and we had a point of contact. They bought some woods from me 7 years ago. They called me in 2025. Like, hey, what's up, Zach? I bought some wood from you, a little bit ago. I'm like, hey, what's up, Josh? And like, how'd you know my name? Like, I save everybody's numbers, so like, I have so many contacts. And 2025, I just started my business. This business took over. I just started back up, so like, I can fix anything with the house I can fix. I'm not a licensed plumber, electrical, or anything like that, so I kind of like stay away from that. I can't do all that stuff. I used to do heating it for 5 years, and I remodel houses for over a decade. So anything along those lines, I have customers that currently, I have customers that they reach out to me and they're like, I need my filter change, or they need whatever they need. Like they have needs. I fulfill the needs. They pay me a fair price. I'm always available. So if you are contacting my phone, you're a priority to me. I have many customers that I service. The customers are my priority. So I don't care if it's 3 o'clock in the morning. If I had a customer call me at 3 o'clock in the morning, they're freaking out because they have lots of water in their house. Well, guess what? Zach is on his way. I'm going to solve that issue. I'm going to take care of all the issue. I'm going to bring in the dehues. I'm going to bring in the fans. I'm going to come in there and take all your drywall out. I'm going to solve all those issues for you. And you're not going to have a problem. But you are going to have a bill. You're going to have an insurance bill. Insurance is going to, I'm going to talk about insurance. Like, there's going to be a bill. So, like, anything with the house, that's what I love doing. Like, I just brought it back up, and the reason is because like I love doing it, and I also love cutting wood. So like whenever like someone has like they reach out to me and they're like, hey, I have 100 logs, and I found you, blah blah blah. Reached out, said you can cut logs, and I'm like, yeah man. So like tell me about your situation, and they're like, well I have a tractor, I have these like attachment, forks, I can lift logs. I'm like, well, I would like you to place all your logs, all situated, so I can pull up. This, hydraulic arms is going to be on the driver's side. I would say my truck is around 20 or so feet long. It's F350. This is 26 feet long. So I need to be able to pull into your location. You have a lot of logs. I'm going to mow those logs down. You're going to be overwhelmed with the amount of wood that I produce in a day. Because like I said, I have cut for over 232 people in the state of Oklahoma. And they don't have bad things to say about me. I have dozens of references for you. So I would love to like cut the logs because like I think that it's crazy. Like this has happened dozens of times. I have cut over 10,000 logs, but people will be like, they'll tell me about this burn pile, and I'll look at the burn pile, like it's trash. I'm gonna burn this, and like I literally will like pluck logs out of that, and I will turn it into like $100 bills. Like there'll be thousands of dollars of wood. I'll slice it up. I'll sell it pretty quickly. I'll turn it into dollars, and instead of that being lit with diesel and going up in the air, which is completely fine, the light piles up all the time. I'm just saying, like, there's salvageable wood in there. I salvage it, I turn it into dollars, and ideally it's going to be a select harvest. So if you have any acres in the state of Oklahoma, I will say I manage over 10,000 acres in the state of Oklahoma. So like, let me tell you a little bit about my business. I know I'm rambling. I typically have like a live stream like once a week. I did miss my live stream last week. So I'm sorry I missed my live stream last week. Let me come up here real quick and turn this light on because it's going off. But I missed my live stream last week. I told you guys I would go live every week, so I like to go live at least once a week on a Saturday or a Sunday. Wife's sleeping, kids are sleeping, baby's cooking, all those things. But anyway, so like this is what I do. I love what I do. I'm passionate about what I do. I fix problems for people when it comes to their houses. I also like to remodel, my own properties and stuff like that. But as far as like the wood goes, like people are like, oh, when can you cut my wood? I'm like, when are you ready to pay me to cut your wood? I'm ready to cut your wood tomorrow. Like, you have logs you want to cut? I'll come tomorrow. I'm going to church tomorrow, so I'm not cutting on I don't work Sundays. But, and I prefer not to work Saturdays. My wife just started her, her second business. So like, we went to a property, we went to a location in Newcastle. We pulled up at 11 o'clock, okay? She has a creamsicle, so she has like a little bicycle car. We fixed it up, built it, stuff like that. We pulled up at 11 o'clock. She sold out by 2 o'clock. All of her product, over 300 push pops and ice cream sandwiches, all these things that we make in-house. We have the permits, we have the all those different things. Like, she completely sold out. So like, for the next 7 weeks in a row, every Saturday I have to lug her around and make sure she can do the things that she desires with her ice cream bike. But outside of that, if you ever need wood cut, I can cut wood any day other than the weekends. I don't like working on the weekends. The weekends are for me. Like, I have been working for myself for 15 years, and like, whenever I do the weekend, that's kind of like, I kind of sacrifice time with family or my own desires, like do things for people. I know people like set aside, like they can only cut on Saturday. We can arrange that. I've cut many Saturdays. Just know I'm booked. I'm not able to help because of the wife's business, for at least 2 months on Saturdays. I have 3 or 4 sawmill jobs set up. My truck's almost ready to go. I got the can hooks in there. I got all my water jug, my diesel. The sawmill's ready to go like it always is. Anytime I cut with this sawmill, this is my second Wood-Mizer. Anytime I cut with it, I take it to the car wash. I have to take it to the car wash because I come onto people's logs. So let's just say I've cut over 10,000 logs in my life, with this sawmill. And I have been pulling wood off of Wood-Mizer for over a decade. So let's just say I'm cutting logs that aren't in ideal conditions because the customer fell a few years ago and they've been on the ground for a while, and there's a shit ton of bugs. Excuse my language. But there's a bunch of bugs in it, just a bunch of nasty stuff in it, and these logs are nasty. So, but I cut them, I slice them up, beautiful grains. They treat the logs, they either throw them through a kiln or whatever they need to do to air dry them, they treat them. But ideally, wood needs to be kiln dried. If it's not air dried properly, wood needs to be kiln dried. The reason you need to kiln dry wood is most people, their logs have been sitting on the ground for a while. You have bugs, and you put them in stacks. You start seeing sawdust piles because your wood's not properly, managed. I manage wood for a living, so my stacks are proper. There's no bugs in this storage unit, unless there's one living, on this sawmill. So whenever I cut wood for people, it's filled with bugs. There'll be bugs crawling over all over the place, and it gets dirty. I like to keep my stuff clean. This is the golden goose. This is what produces for my family. This is what feeds my kids. This is what feeds, this is what pays my mortgage. So anytime I use it, it's nasty. There's nasty bugs on it. I take it to the car wash. Spend $5. Get it all cleaned up. Whenever you get it cleaned up, I do throw more water on my machine than most people. I am a micro sawmill. My inventory is standing. I have access to over 10,000 acres. So I talked about that a little bit ago. I'll go into it very soon, but I like to keep my machine very clean and nice and ready to go. So it's all oiled up, ready to roll. It's ready to eat wood. I have multiple degrees of blades to cut any log in the state of Oklahoma. If this mill doesn't achieve your goals, which I can't cut 67 logs in a day. It's the most I've ever cut. I challenge myself to cut 100 logs in a day. I've cut for, I'd say it gets windy in here and these things rattle and stuff, but I've cut for over a dozen people in the state of Oklahoma that have a sawmill, some sawmill of some sort, and the reason that they call me is because they know that I can mow down logs. So let's say they cut 6 or 7 logs in a day with their sawmill, they're pushing the log through. Well, they'll call me and I'll come in and I'll mow 50 of their logs down in a day. They'll pay me, $150 an hour, $100 an hour. It used to be 100, now it's 150. They'll pay me, and I'll go off on my way, and they'll be happy with my situation, and they'll have their goals achieved. I achieve people's goals. So if you have a goal of log getting processed, I'm going to achieve your goals. If it's going to be pine logs, I would love to cut your pine logs. You just need to let me know it's going to be pine for the entire day, because my outfit is going to be completely different than my outfit for hardwood logs. I'm going to have a diesel soaked outfit that I have. I'm going to run diesel through my drip system. We're not going to have any issues with your sap. I'm going to cut 100 pine logs in your day, or 50 pine logs in a day, depending upon how much work you're going to do. If you can just let me focus on cutting the logs with my machine, just producing logs, producing cuts, and you off-bear the material, then you're gonna get more logs cut in a day. There's time I've cut hundreds of pine logs for customers, a 3-day job. There's 165 pine logs. It probably could have been a 2-day job. The reason it was a 3-day job and not a 2-day job is because, well, I don't care. I'm fine with it. Well, it could have been a 2-day job if they did things, a few things differently. It was a 3-day job. That's more money in my pocket, more money in my bank account, completely fine. Well, I cut 165 logs over the span of 3 days and didn't touch a single piece of wood that came off my sawmill. So every log that I rolled on by hand, can hooks, they continued to feed my machine with the skid steer, so that was very nice. They're great people. I would love to cut for them again. I'm just saying, if you want to get the most bang for your buck, you would focus on getting the material off my machine. I can have a helper and charge you an increased rate to get more logs cut in that hour, but it would be at an increased rate because I have an additional expense for that helper. So during that 3-day process, I cut 165 logs, and every 165 logs, I rolled every one on, and every piece of material, even every offcut, I touched. Threw it in a disorganized stack, and then they touched it and do the thing. They watched me half the time, which was great. I love people watching me. Take your videos, do all those things. Just know that instead of putting 2 days in my pocket, I put 3 days in your pocket. 3 days in my pocket because you chose to not off-grid material. The best outfits in Oklahoma is Brian, great guy, Urban Wood. I've cut for him, before. Absolutely fantastic guy. They can off-grid material. Malcolm, great guy. There's been 4 or 5 different individuals that they can keep up with the material. I will say most people, I come to their property and they have 20 or 30 different logs. We continue to cut, and they're worn out pretty quickly whenever they have hundreds of slabs that they're having to deal with. Usually I like to have a phone call with these customers before I cut for them so I can get them prepared. I'm going to get them to prepare their logs in an orderly fashion. You've got a bunch of logs in a row, and you're going to have all the limbs situated. If I have to make a bunch of chainsaw cuts, that's completely fine with me. I don't know if you can see it, but there's 3 chainsaws right there. That one's kind of my backup. That's, there's 661s, there's 2 of them, and there's a little one right there. But, that 661, it's ready to go. It'll eat any tree in the state of Oklahoma. And then, that one right there is going to be my primary saw. So I'll always use that saw. Let's say if it needed to be, buffered up and I need to, hand file it, it's going to be hand filed. If it was extremely cold, I'd probably bust out that one. That one's always ready to go. I don't like to bust it out and intermingle during my workloads because I like to always have my saws ready to go. That saw's ready, all my saws ready to go. I'm always using this saw. If there's something that's wrong with that, I like to fix it, and if I can't, I use my backup saw or my backup saw. I have 3 different saws, chainsaws. I have many parts with this machine. If anything breaks with it, knock on wood, I can fix it. I do say there's a few other things that I want to buy for it just so I can be prepared for those situations. Anytime I go into a situation, I like to be prepared. There's times where I go into the woods, I cut trees down, for a living. I've cut over 10,000 trees down, and I have thousands of cedar trees and thousands of walnut trees. But whenever I go into the woods, you have to be prepared. So you're not I gotta turn those lights on, guys. I can't just not turn the lights on. But yeah, so when I go into the woods, you gotta be prepared. If you think you're gonna go into the woods and just have, I'm sorry, sometimes there's no need. It's always on me. It's usually in the truck. But anyway, so whenever I go into the woods, I like to be fully prepared. When I go out with this machine, I'm prepared to not come home for 3 days. Anytime I go out with it, because anything can happen. So my ideal, it's gonna happen this week. I'm not gonna tell you when. But anyway, so it's gonna happen this week. So I'm gonna go into the woods this week. I'm gonna fall some trees. I'll be all by myself. I'll do it hundreds of times, and then I've done it hundreds of times with a partner also. So my buddy Clayton, anytime I have a tree that needs to be dismantled, he climbs in this tree, he tops it, and we go out and we harvest lots of trees together. These particular situations I have going forward for the next 2 weeks, I won't need his assistance. So I'm gonna go into the woods, I'm gonna fall a few trees, I'm gonna pull these trees out with my F350. I have lots of chains, I have winches and all that stuff too, snatch blocks. I'll pull these logs out, I'll get them, I'll make a log deck, depending upon, you know, its situation, the sawmill level. I'll set up camp, so like, I'll have like 2 or 3 ribeyes in the truck. I'll probably have a few beers, ice, like, you know, ice to keep everything cold, water. I might have some chips. There'll be, you know, maybe a few. There might be a few Coca-Colas in the coolers. Like everything could potentially be in the woods, you know, for a few days. But lots of meat. There's usually a meat cooler. I have this purple grill right there. So like, I'll go in the woods. I cut trees down. There's hundreds of videos, you know, on Instagram and YouTube. Anyways, like go in the woods, cut trees down, you know, pull them out. Depending on how productive you are that day, you are going to kind of set up camp and eat. You know, the next day is probably going to be just slicing up all the logs, assuming you have them all pulled out, and you're just kind of a plan. So whenever I kind of tackle certain trees, there's going to be a plan that's going to be established, and once that plan is established, you're just going to execute on the plan. And that's very important, because whenever you cut trees down, it's very dangerous. And I'm not trying to be boastful. Most people would be like, look at me and like, oh, he's such a bitch or such a pussy. Like, okay, think whatever you want to think. You know, I love the Lord Jesus Christ as my Savior. Sorry for being like, however I'm being right now. I'm just saying, like, I try to be authentic. This is just my true self, and I want you to know that, like, I am an extremely hard worker. I have worked for myself since I was like 18 years old. I'm 34 years old. I'm about to turn 35. So like, just like as far as like seeing other entrepreneurs, like I truly like value like hard work. I value people that like just like love to grind. Like I love miserable conditions. Like whenever it's like -15 or whatever, like those things don't bother me. You can take off layers, like, and you know, extreme conditions don't bother me with heat and stuff like that. So anytime I go into the woods, you have to be fully prepared so you can accomplish your goals. I love doing that. It's like, it's my time right now. Like, my dad died last year. It was like it's such a shitty year last year. Last year was shitty, and this year has been great. I'm just super excited for this year. I have to cut for somebody on Monday. I have a repeat customer, so I've cut for hundreds of people around the state. So like, a customer called me. He was like, well, I want you to cut some more logs. And I was like, oh man, I'm sorry. Like, I increased my price. I went from $100 an hour to $150, and like, so I feel a little frustrated whenever I have to have that confrontation with people that I have cut for at that original old price, and I just have to be, you know, tell them like, you know, he didn't bat an eye. He's like, I don't care, you know, I don't care at all. Like, I was extremely happy with what you did last time for me. I think you were cheap last time, you know. You cut for me, so it's like, and I've cut for him multiple times, so he doesn't care about the price. And I actually found out, like, I've had 3 or 4 different people. If you go on Instagram, like, want to look at my videos, there's thousands of videos of this sawmill cutting thousands of different logs. There's over 50,000 subscribers, you know, followers and stuff. You know, just random organic growth. You know, you put a video out there, sometimes it'll get a million views, and sometimes it gets, you know, 35,000 views or 3,500 views or whatever. And like, I wish I probably could do better with engagement on, you know, social media. I do like kind of try to produce content. This is kind of like you know, authentic, you know, sawmill talk. You know, this is my business. It's micro business. Like I said, I have access to over 10,000 acres in the state of Oklahoma. I manage people's trees. I come in there and kind of just observe people's trees, and there's certain trees that need to be cut out. So you'll see tops that are degrading, tops that are, you know, declining. Certain things around the base of the tree that, you know, show us indications this tree probably needs to be processed. Like a lot of times, you know, I catch these trees, you know, before even the entire stem turns yellow, before the entire stem hollows out. Like if trees aren't pruned properly, even ice storms can be the downfall of a tree. So I manage thousands of acres around the state. I have access to thousands of different trees. Whenever you think about a typical sawmill, most people would come think about sawmill. They see a bunch of logs laying on the ground. Well, guess what? My logs are standing right now, okay? I will say I probably have 20 or so logs at a few different places in everybody's house. Big logs, walnut logs, they're laying down, okay? We'll have hundreds of logs that are standing up, and their time hasn't come yet. So like, some of them I have, I think, 75 or so trees that need to be harvested this year. Their time has come. I'm ready to, you know, my face cut in there like I do every tree. I've cut over 10,000 trees in my lifetime. Lots of cedar, lots of walnut, lots of oak, even box elder, maple, pine, cypress, all sorts of good trees. I'm going to put my face cut in there every single time. I'm plunge cutting every single tree. I'm going to bore cut these trees. So I'm going to have my chainsaw like this, I'm going to be completely ready to go. My tip's going to be touching where I want. I want to make sure I have the allocation for my hinge. I don't want to increase or encroach on my proper hinge. So it's going to be done properly. I want my cut to be like square. I don't want it to be downhill, to be working against me. I want my cut to be square. So I'm going to be going with my chainsaw. I'm going to plunge this chain in there. I'm going to form my hinge. I'm going to bore it out. I'm going to throw a couple wedges in there accordingly, depending upon what's leaning, what's going on with the tree. There's always going to be a pre-tree inspection. You want to know what's going on with the tree. You're going to bore cut this tree, sever everything. Everything's going to be severed. I'm going to leave my back strap, okay? I'm going to leave my holding wood, my hinge, okay? Not my hinge, but just like I call it my trigger. Okay, so everything's severed. I got my hinges in the proper place. My wedges are proper. My hinge is proper. Everything's proper. And all I have to do is I got to get through this wood and the tree falls. Okay, and then I get through this wood and the tree falls. The trees go 99% of the time where I tell them to go. I will tell you about the one time later in this video. But anyway, so yeah, so I like to face cut my trees. I like to bore cut them, plunge cut them, leave my proper hinge, do things properly, and you have your helmet, chaps, and stuff like that. Because you're in the woods by yourself. If you told me I cut my leg with a chainsaw, I'd be very, very surprised. But anything could happen. Sometimes you're in the dead zone in a branch. Let's say, put my face cut in. I just bore cut it, and I'm about to cut my trigger. Well, guess what? Guess what happens when that happens? This stem is standing and it's by other trees, assuming you did things properly. If it's a tree that needs to be dissected, and it just be stem. Well, if this tree has any dead wood up in the canopy and it branches or it wants to just rub up against another tree, if there's another canopy by it, and this canopy's right here, and this canopy's right here, and there's any dead wood up there, and that dead piece of wood gets knocked off, gets clipped, and you don't know what the hell you're going to get killed. It's a widowmaker. You have to be very, very aware of your surroundings when you cut hardwoods, when you cut trees. I couldn't even imagine the people on the east and west coast that cut super tall trees. Maybe smaller trees, and I know there's super big trees. I'm very impressed with people that fall timber on a tall scale, because we don't have very tall trees in Oklahoma. I'd say maybe 130 feet. Okay, there's trees that are taller than that in other places in the country. So, mad respect to any logger, anybody that cuts timber for a living. And most people in the Midwest, they don't replant. Okay, so most people in the Midwest, they don't replant. So. It's not something I ever advertise, but I have been planting walnut trees for the past 10 years. I do have over 15,000 viable seeds at my house, and as far as saplings go, I'm always planting 2 or 3 different hundred saplings every single year. Those saplings are transplanted into the wild, the places that I'm cutting, and hopefully that helps the walnut population. The walnut population in the state of Oklahoma is around 3%. The state of Oklahoma, okay, let's just say, think if it's a pan. Well, there's other states that are, kind of encroaching on Oklahoma. So let's just say there's other states that touch Oklahoma. Well, there's other states that are touching Oklahoma that have a disease called thousand cankers disease. So this thousand cankers disease can kill a walnut tree in 3 years. So if all these states around Oklahoma, let's say, are getting infected with thousand cankers disease, and Oklahoma walnut, let's say, isn't necessarily affected 100% yet. I think it is in Oklahoma right now, but let's say it's not affected yet, and there's people targeting all of our healthy population of trees. Let's say they go onto people's properties and they cut every single tree out, even the 12-inch wide trees. Well, what's the sustainability in the future look like for the walnut tree in Oklahoma? I know active, multiple people from out of state, Missouri walnuts. Anyways, come into Oklahoma, they cut all of our trees, they send them to Missouri, they ship them to China. So they're cutting all of our trees, okay? And shipped in China. Trees grow back. I'm not saying they don't grow back. Well, I think that, like I say, a 12-inch wide walnut tree shouldn't be cut. I think a 12-inch wide walnut tree, assuming it was in a healthy condition, you should maybe like keep it where it could grow to 30 inches wide. Just like, killing deer, you're not gonna go onto a property and just kill all the 6 and 8 point bucks. Like, like you should maybe like harvest like a 12 point buck, maybe wait a little bit more. I've been in a deer stand hundreds of times, like shooting at a 4 point buck. Some people think you should always shoot spikes. I have shot a few spikes, but I'm just saying, like, I think that there should be more of a management when it comes to hardwood. So like most people just see walnut and they just want to cut them all down, okay? Because they think that they're so valuable. I do think that it's a valuable tree. I do pay for all my walnut trees. I've paid tens of thousands of dollars for all the different trees that I've cut. I like to go on the property, have access to the property, and I like to pay for people to have their logs kind of situated. I pay them for that tree. Ideally, we need to make sure it's settled whenever the tree's on the ground, because there could be something that's inside the tree that makes it not valuable. So like if we're grading this tree on it being a good log and it's hollow, well, I don't want the log. I think it's valuable. I'm glad that you're cutting off your property, but so like those things do come about. But yeah, I actively cut walnut trees for people. I pay for these trees, and I slice them up. Whenever a tree hits the ground, it's typically sliced up within 24 hours. And if it is in certain times during the year, go into that later, the bark's going to be removed. So I remove all my bark. Slabs are going to be standing for a week to 2 weeks, depending upon temperatures and stuff like that. And then after the standing slabs that were just cut, then they're going to go into stacks. I don't like to put my slabs into stacks immediately. Sometimes you can induce sticker stain whenever you put a slab. It's like you just wash it off and you put it in a stack and you strap it up, whatever. Those slabs have so much surface moisture that you're probably going to have a sticker stain on that. So like I do stand my slabs up and then I put them in stacks. I have hundreds of slabs at my house, and they're all nice and beautiful. So like, it looks like the tree was, but there's stickers in between it, and they're all, strapped up. And I continue to, readjust those straps throughout the seasons, because wood shrinks and wood expands. So my wood is shrinking in those stacks. So it's just kind of you have to do things properly. So face cut, plunge cut, do all those things. The one that got away, barbed wire on the tree, 50-inch wide walnut tree. Let's say it was in 2021. Nice walnut tree. I actually got 2 of them that property. The guy gave me these trees for free. Okay? So they're big walnuts. So like just say they require my other mill. So I have another mill that cuts 76 inches wide with 20 feet. So if you have big trees that are given to you, which happens like once a year, a few times a year, and the trees are given to you because they don't want to pay for the expense of dismantling these trees. Well, these trees are given to me. I have this massive tree, and there's all sorts of things that are encroaching on the liabilities. I see liability, and you got to take care of all those liabilities, okay? And then you gotta get it to a stem, and then you slice it up, and harvest it. You get a bunch of slabs, and you put it in your stack, and you store it. Well, the one that got away was barbed wire all up in it. I didn't do my typical cut. Let's just say the trees are here. There's a barn, a little garage, metal shed right here, and I put my truck like here, okay? And there's no. The cut on this tree, there was nothing, it was a failure, okay? There was nothing about it, but there was so much metal in the tree, and I needed the tree to come down, and I thought we had everything in our favor. My buddy topped the tree. We topped the tree to like 33 feet. I probably should have had him top it to like 25. Anyway, so that 33 feet, it did clip this building, but I had my truck, we had it chained up and, cabled up, and I had my truck, and we were pulling it, assisting, its fall, and it just fell a little bit this way, and it clipped this thing. It cost $2,500. You know, I paid a guy $2,500. Estimate guy came out, and he said it's gonna be $2,500. You know, I gave him $2,500. You know, like it was my mistake. You know, so like that's the one that got away, and it was unfortunate, but there was a lot of things that could have been prevented. I will say, all in all, with those cuts that were established by me, if my buddy wanted me to place my truck over here, if I would have threw my truck over here, which I desired to do, and I'm not blaming anybody, but I desired to throw my truck over here to have more of a leverage pool on this tree, I don't think that tree would have hit that building. And also, if I would have went back, if I should have had him top it. I remember him being up there, and it was a long day. Big tree, almost ready to go. It just was still up there, and that's the little thing that clipped it. Little thing, it was $2,500. And yeah, I should have had him, top another 10 feet off the stem, and but we didn't. And that's the price that you pay. So there's things that happen. You need to be fully prepared when you go into the woods. I said I was going to talk about the one that got away, but when you go into the woods, you need to be prepared. Like, you can't just have one pair of boots that are on your feet right now. Like, you need to have a secondary pair of boots, socks. There was time I pulled a bunch of slabs out of the woods and it started raining. Sawmill and trailer on location. I couldn't get out. I was stuck. I couldn't get out. So I took some slabs off my trailer and I literally made like a roadway. I left 6 slabs behind, and 3 or 4 days later I came to the property, cleaned up a little bit of a mess I left, and caught my slabs and went back. But there's times that things happen, like trees. Let's say that one time that tree went the wrong way. There's times where you think this tree is a beautiful tree, and like you spent lots of work. Let's say whatever you need to do with it, it falls out. It's hollow, so it's like you can't just like do nothing with it. So it's like, well, this 40-inch by walnut tree that's hollow, I'm gonna cut some cookies out of it at least. And then like you see some sections that are like solid enough that you can actually slice. So like you never know what you're gonna get when you cut a log. Like, but I think every log is interesting. I think these are absolutely fantastic. This is a round pearl. Personal collection. Like sometimes people like, "Well, we'll give you $100 for it." Like, well, I won't sell it for $100. Like, yeah. So like a piece like this, like, it's not really for sale. If somebody wanted to give me like $1,000 for it, like, okay, you can have it. So that's kind of that kind of personal collection. This is my storage unit. I do have. There's probably 3 pieces in here that say not for sale on them because I just don't have a place to put them. Like, I don't want to store a bunch of things in my garage. So I do store a bunch of things in my garage, but like you have all the space, 12 by 40 unit, you want to try to utilize it the best you can. And so you just want to utilize it the best you can. So it's like you just work with what you got. So I would just say encouragement. My word of encouragement is if you're an entrepreneur, just keep grinding. Like I won't want to like restrict you from doing anything right now. I will say this day and age right now, I think I'm looking forward to like the future stuff. Like I think it might be the hardest time to start a business, but it doesn't mean you can't do it. Just know, like, if you start a business, I think you're just gonna continue to be persistent, continue to be consistent, continue to reach out, continue to network, do your social media, do all your different things. Just continue to grind, and know that like, let's say if you fail, I failed dozens of times. We have 4 different businesses. Okay, so I've failed dozens of times. If you fail, you're just gonna kind of get up, back up, kind of reconnect, and get you just continue to grind, keep moving forward, one foot after another. Just keep grinding. If you want to start a sawmill business, I think you can start a sawmill business, and like it could be like the best thing that ever happened to you. I think like since I've owned 2 different Wood-Mizers, it's one of the best things that's ever happened to me. I would say it takes a lot of my time. I might have spent more time with this Wood-Mizer than speaking to my wife like face to face. Not talking about just presence wise, being at the house and stuff, like speaking face to face in the past 3 years. I've probably been with this Wood-Mizer more than I've spoke to my wife face to face in the past 3 years. There's lots of like pros and cons with it. It does take a lot of time, lots of workload. Up until like 3 years ago, I stopped procuring all species but walnut. So like I used to like cut wood like every single day. people would want to give me a log. It's like, well, this is a beautiful log. It's a whitewood log, sycamore log, pecan log, oak log, hackberry log, you name it, bodark log, whatever log you want to name, You get these logs, tree of heaven, whatever. You get these massive logs, and like, it's like, oh man, that's going to go to landfill. I need to get it like tomorrow. And you do it. And you can do that, hundreds of times, and it's like, it's very rewarding, but it's also like very time consuming, and it's like lots of manual labor. So like, I stopped procuring and taking whitewood logs because space allocation. So like, if I'm just gonna focus on one thing and always be available for it, I want it to be the walnut tree. So there's many times, I would say over 30 or 40 different times, I get calls. Let's just say from demolition companies, from land clearing companies. There's over 5,000 contacts in that phone that you're looking at me through. Saved contacts, like first, last name, and stuff like that, addresses, emails, and stuff like that. People, reach out to me and they have these logs, and you're gonna be like burn it or take it to the landfill or whatever they're done with them, and I save these logs, and sometimes it's not. One thing I like to really save is going to be walnut logs. I would love to cut, all logs, just as far as the procurement and storage and handling of anything outside of walnut is so much of a labor intensity and space allocation. Like I can have 30 different bules in here. I don't want to sit on these old logs in my usable space. For 2 to 3 years, and I could send them to the kiln, spend $3, a board foot, get them back in the kiln dried, and have them ready to go. I don't necessarily want to spend $3 a board foot on a piece of wood. I don't like spending money, okay? I do not like spending money. If I need something, I buy it. And that's what I've always been. Like, if I need something, I buy it. I always save my money. I like to work really hard. If I need something, I buy it. And, as far as like just spending money on random things, I don't really like to do that. So I don't know where I'm going with this, but this is my live stream. This is my small business, Wood by Wigs. This is all I do. I love cutting wood. My favorite log to cut. I have a few questions to answer. So my favorite log to cut is going to be like the sycamore log. So I think sycamore logs are fantastic because you get this beautiful interlocking grain depending on how you cut it and which portion of the slab set you're going to be talking about. But there's interlocking grain that can be absolutely beautiful. And assuming the sycamore log was on the ground for a year and rotated and sat for another year and did all this crazy salting, that would be probably one of my favorite pieces of wood we've got. But sycamore is just absolutely beautiful. I do love walnut. I have lots of walnut logs and lots of walnut slabs. I do have lots of logs that are laying down. I need to cut this year. They've been laying down for a few too many years. They are still solid. They are off the ground. But I need to cut them. They require quite a bit of, they're just really big. They're like 33 inches wide. They're big, but it's like, if they're 40, they would have already been cut. So, I need to go cut them. And once I cut them, I'm going to put them in my house, and they're going to chill for a few years. There's some tabletops in the front of my unit. I cut them in 2020, so they've been cut for 5 years. They're dry. You can put a meter on them, like 10% moisture content. So I love cutting wood. You get to cut wood, store it properly, and kind of forget about it. And if you plan to sell your wood, just know if you're going to market wood like as green, don't ever tell someone that your green wood is dry. Like I've never done that. Like if I've sold 10,000 slabs. Whenever I sell wood to be fresh off the mill, just cut, harvested, salvages wood. And it's like fresh off the mill. It's wet as wet as a tree. And it's not dry at all. And people ask, is this dry? Is this making it dry? Like, no, it's fresh off the mill. I just cut it. It's like 34% moisture content plus. The meter's beeping at you like crazy. It's not dry. And then let's say they buy it. And then let's say 6 months, you're like, man, this is frustrating. I glued these pieces of wood up that, you fresh off the mill. It's like, I told you they weren't dry. So wood needs to dry a year per inch. And sometimes if you're going to get into 3-inch stock, it's not even going to be 3 years. It's going to be 4.5 years. 3-inch stock takes it's hard to dry 3-inch stock at 3 years. It's going to take longer than 3 years air drying. But I feel like air drying the wood is just the proper way, because like, let's say if I had 10,000 slabs, if one day I will have 10,000 dry slabs just chilling, okay? Let's say if I had 10,000 slabs, dry, bug free, dry, bone dry, in an acclimated, the temperature was proper as far as the, having dehumidifiers in the space, and there was just 10,000 slabs just chilling in a warehouse, okay? And then you also had a different area that, you were actively procuring logs, having all these different things. Like, I would love to have that. But until then, I'm just sitting on, 400 or 500 slabs. Like, I feel like having like a larger footprint just like puts more pressure on me. I've had pressure on me before, as far as like I've had 3 or 4 different people working for me with other other business and stuff like that, and like I feel like you're always just grinding to get the jobs. You continue to want to pay these people, you just get grind. It's constant grinding, and you can't just like tell somebody, hey, I really want you to work for me, and then like you only use them when you like need them. It's like you just like say, hey, I don't need you anymore. It's like they just like stop like their life to help you out for 2 weeks because you thought you were a big shot, and then like in 2 weeks later that you can't like afford to pay them, you tell them to go find a job, and then like maybe like 6 weeks, you're like, hey man, can you help me a little bit? And I promise it's gonna be different. Like, I really have much work for you. It's like, man, like whenever I bring people on and I tell them, like I've had 4 different employees. When I bring people on, it's not like a part-time situation. It's like I care about you. Like I don't want to like just like leave you high and dry, like without a job, without income, without revenue streams, so you can pay for the things that you you do with your personal life. So like it's very crazy to see how many people that will like really talk really big, like how busy they are, and it's like how they need to get these things done. With like even like contractors or like the home industry. People talk about like how customers screw over contractors. We don't know how many customers screw over contractors, vice versa. So anyway, so like yeah, man, like I feel like you just gotta treat people right, and like if you are going to employ people, just like tell them, like be real with them, and just know that like tell them like like you only have like a little bit of work for them. Like you're not like a long-term situation. You gotta like know that like people plan, and like you can't just leave them high and dry and just use them whenever you need them for a few weeks because you're super busy. You have 4 or 5 or 15 or 20 or 45 or 50 or 60 or 10 or $12,000 worth of work lined up for this portion of time, and you're like thinking you're super nice, and like you get these people on with you, get so big, and your overhead's so much. And it's like I don't believe in like large overhead. Like my overhead right now is $350, like for this business, just this business. Okay, I actually want to eliminate that. I don't want to be throwing money down the drain, but I see it as I can write this particular location off. So like every single year, any price, I don't care what the price is of this unit, I'll pay for it because it can go against my profits. So like if I desire to bring someone here, like I do every single day, to buy wood, so I had 2 different customers in here today, okay? And I also was on till 3 o'clock with my wife's event, but I desire to bring a customer in here. I'm not gonna bring random customers to my house, so I'm able to spend $350 to have a customer in here. Look at dry wood, they dry wood. It's a great situation. It's typically there's lots of conversations. It's kind of like I like relate to customers. I'm able to like form relationships, and like a lot of my customers are like a long-term customers. Like these customers like would see me like year after year after year because there's like a relationship there. Like I don't like just treat them like the numbers. These customers come in, they buy what they desire to buy, and before those relationships are formed over the years, and they continue to come back. And like just like have a customer, like they're labeled accordingly to my phone. Like you'll say, like a random customer will call you, and it says Clint, blah blah blah, Wood-Mizer 2001. It's like, wow, I haven't spoke to this guy since 2001. I want to figure out what's going on with this individual. So like, have a conversation. Like, man, how you doing? How's that build going? Is the farm going well? are those coyotes still getting all your chickens? Like, whatever the situation is, it's like just relating to people. Like I genuinely care about people. Like I love the Lord. I love people. So like building relationships with customers, and whenever customers, let's say, do reach out to you, 4 years later, and you remember their name. When they call you, you address them by their name. Like, hey, what's up, buddy? What's up, Clint? What's up, friend? Whatever their name is, Joe Bob. You address them by your name because you have their information saved, and that goes a long way. So like, treat your customers properly. I feel like it's very important to just like treat people right, treat people the way you want to be treated. And one of the things I want to say is communication. I say 80% of the population. I don't think these figures are not accurate, but 80% of people have good communication. Not accurate, but 20% of people have horrible communication. Let's say you tell somebody you're going to be somewhere at 12:30, and at 1 o'clock you're telling them that you're going to be late. It's like, well, you should have told me at 12 o'clock you were going to be late. Why are you telling me at 1 o'clock you're going to be late? So that means from 12:30 to 1 o'clock, that 30 minutes of time, you just wasted mine. And now you're telling me you're going to be late at 1:30. You're not going to arrive until 1:30. So that's an hour you just wasted. My favorite customer tells me when they're going to be there, and if they're going to be like late, I'm not talking about like a few minutes or 4 or 5 or 10 minutes. Like those things, you tell me you're going to be at 12:30, you're there at 12:20 or 12:40. That's completely fine. But customers that tell you that they're going to be somewhere at a certain time, and they don't live up to those expectations, communicate along the lines. It's kind of like it puts a sour taste in my mouth because it's like they completely disregard your time. It's like. I have dozens of them, but they will say, hey, I hope you get 30, and let's say I love you 5. Hey man, you think you do tell me your job? I go meet my wife at lunch real quick, and actually it might be 1 o'clock. Hey, that's cool, that's awesome. Hey, thank you for notifying me. Thank you for letting me know that it's not going to be 1 o'clock. Because guess what? I have till 1 o'clock to do what I desire in my life. And I care for that guy that just communicated that to me. He desires my time, and I value everybody's time. Because time is so important. You never know how much time you're gonna have on this earth, guys. I thought my dad wasn't gonna die whenever I left for Illinois. Okay. Hey, Dad, come in the house and check on things. I literally just cut these 16-foot pecan slabs, and I got these 70 and 40-inch walnut slabs. I just cut. Life was very good last year. Life was so good. I thought I was on top of the mountain. Okay. My dad came over, checked on my house. I kind of gave him a routine, what he needed to do. I went to Illinois with my family. My mom was in Washington State. My brother lives in Costa Rica. Everybody's out of town. Okay. My dad's taking care of the situation. My dad's taking care of my dogs, my mom's dogs, and something happened to him. And he hit a tree, right from a pear tree, and he died. Okay? He was allergic to many things. I actually think the hospital killed him. But anyways, malpractice and many things are going forward soon. But those are, anyways, so so when my dad died, I never thought that the last time I saw him at my house, 3 days prior, whenever I was kind of giving him a brush up of what he needed to do with Ella and my landscape and stuff like that, I didn't know that was going to be the last time I was going to see my dad. And I think about it every single day. I miss my dad so much. My dad was the #1 supporter of my business. Okay, so whenever I had anything going on in the past 15 years, if it's from anything, my dad would be the first one you call. And you think that you can always call your dad. I just want you to know, if you don't have a relationship with your dad right now, your dad is alive, I pray to God you can soften your heart and maybe rekindle that relationship and potentially, and I don't know the circumstances, God can perform miracles, He can move mountains. I just know that family is so important. If you let these little things in life get to you and they separate you from your family that's still here on earth, just know that, if that particular family member wasn't to be there the next day, how would you feel by not, potentially calling them the day before because, whatever, you're caught up in whatever. So the day I lost my dad, we're all out of town, he's dead. I had to go, I had a direct flight, private flight, from Illinois to Oklahoma City. And it was the craziest experience in my life. And it was the lowest point in my entire life. I was in the valley, okay? And I've been in a valley. It was the deepest valley I've ever been in my life, okay? And now I've been climbing out of that valley. Okay, so like as far as like that situation with my dad dying, you know, having to handle his assets, you know, completely remodeling house, you know, fixing house, you know, selling a house, you know, selling things, selling all the things, handling business, you know, doing those things, and continue to cut wood, continue to, you know, be a dad, you know, husband, and you know, taking care of your kids and stuff like that, you know, paying for your mortgage. You just gotta continue to grind. It's all about grinding. You can't like just soften up. I will say, like, I feel like a lot of people don't want to work. Like, there's a lot of times, like, after I get done with the day's worth of work, you'll see my hands, and they'll just be scattered with scars and cracks. You'll just be completely black. They're really clean now, but you know, after I cut walnut, my hands are extremely dirty. And I would consider that dirty hands, clean money, because I work extremely hard for the things I have. So I don't like people disrespecting like things, like my kids. Like, I try to teach my kids like more about respect. Okay. Like I told you, I missed my live stream last week. Okay. So it's okay if I go over an hour on this one, but yeah, I try to teach my kids more about respect, and it's something that's been challenging, like, you know, for them to like respect us and like respect things and like just kind of have like more manners and stuff like that. So like, that's something that, you know, I pray and want for my kids. Is I think respect is so important. Respect goes such a long way because you have to respect your neighbor. You have to like you honestly you have to love your neighbor. You have to love all people. And like the only time like, you know, things like that are involved, it's like when you cross lines. Like if you came into my house in the middle of the night, like that's crossing the line. And like that's like I'm not loving and respecting you. I'm not loving you in that moment. You're you know, I'm gonna end your life, you know, type deal, you know, like, so like, you know, instead of crossing the line, you know, no one's gonna break in my house and try to do anything to me, but if that was to happen, you know, those are the things that, you know, would take place. Outside of circumstances like that, you know, I wanna love all people, until you cross that line and, you know, try to, you know, threaten me. So, you know, loving all people, treating people right is very important to me. Treating customers right, you know, just working very hard is very important to me. I hope that light doesn't go off. Let's go turn it on one more time. This must be a very long video. I don't know why you're still following along, but here you go. Let's see here. Yeah, running down 14 people. Anyways, guys, man, I appreciate you. Wood-Mizer LT40 wide, super. It loves to eat wood. It's literally like, that's what it's made to do, is just like eat wood. And I'm looking forward to eating wood this week. I'm eating wood on Monday, for sure, for a customer. I'm also eating 2 different times this week. So those are going to be my own personal procurement for box elder and walnut trees. I'll be taking those trees. I'm going to be selling the box elder before it dries. It probably won't even stay in here for a day. Whenever I cut certain species like cedar, if I cut cedar right now, just with my network and my customers and stuff, it's gone day up. If I brought 40 slabs of cedar in here, it'd be gone. Whenever I bring a few different other species in here, it's gone very quickly. So I'm able to procure that white wood in that sense because I know it's going to move quickly. I'm not going to be sitting on this wood. They know this wood is like cool because it has like red flames in it or like the sycamore, whatever the situation is. Like they know it's like I'm going to move it. They know I move wood and they don't care that it's white. And they're going to buy it and they're going to sit on it. You know that they're going to get that box elder flame at that 20 or 40 or 60 or $80 price point. Whatever the price point is they're going to buy it from me and it's going to be gone and it's going to be, like, they go so quickly I can never like keep up when it comes to certain things. Like I always have walnut, but certain species, like whenever I cut burls, I post 13 or 14 different burl species, like cuts, like they're gone like so quickly. I can never have enough. So I plan on, you know, increasing the amount of wood and sizes I have. I will say in the past 7 days. So this wall was empty like 10 days ago. I brought all this stuff in. It's all dry material. I got them all labeled. I talked about it on the last one, the last slab. I got all that stuff done. I think on the last one you saw me moving all this stuff in. Got that done. I've got a bunch of smalls in here. There's a bunch of burls. And then I have like 300 or 400, like just a bunch of burls, like a bunch of like chunks, a bunch of like epoxy resin molds, like just a bunch of burls, like highly figured burls. And I plan on creating something right there so I can kind of display them so they can potentially be sold, because they're just in like containers right now. And they've been cut for like 6 or 7 years. Some of them have been cut for 9 years. And they're just a bunch of highly figured wood, a bunch of knife blanks, a bunch of pin blanks, a bunch of resin molds, just a bunch of pieces of wood that I want to have displayed, and it's going to be right there. So that's kind of my spiel for tonight. I have actually some 16-foot slabs in my backyard. So like 16 feet, and then they're like 34 and like 40 inches wide, but they're really tall. So I actually kind of want to bring one to dry. I want to bring one and stand it up in the back. My only fear is, because I know like I would put a piece of wood against this cinder block wall. The piece of wood would probably like maybe 4 or 5 feet long, and I would just have it against the wall. And whenever this would just be me. Whenever I'm pushing this slab up, it would prevent the slab from going back farther, and then it would allow me to do, lift it all the way up, and then I'll be able to walk it and place it. My only fear is actually getting a 16-foot slab down that's 40 inches wide. I think it would be challenging and dangerous, because the last time I did like a 12-foot slab that was extremely wide, it could have been bad. It could have hurt me. Sometimes I take videos of like these points that I have some movie slabs and even like pulling logs out of wood. I don't have to do this in woods typically, but yeah, I mean it's an interesting business. I love what I do. No one's in charge of me except my wife. The Wood-Mizer is ready to eat wood. A few different customers on the books ready to cut wood, and the only thing that's preventing me from like going to procure wood for myself is going to be like me. Like I could go tomorrow and cut wood and bring wood, but I don't desire to do that. The tree's still growing; it's not going anywhere, and it's like I'm the guy that has access to these trees. They're not letting like other people cut the trees. It's like, why do I feel like there's urgency to cut this tree down tomorrow when it might be a millimeter in diameter wider in 3 weeks? So you just gotta have patience, treat people right, work hard. If you have any questions, I said I was gonna answer in the video. Let's see what's going on. Maybe not. That's it. You guys got any questions? Okay. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, well, it doesn't look like there's any questions, but someone just said yo. But anyways, that's my business, guys. Thank you for subscribing. If this is not the channel for you, unsubscribe. It doesn't affect me. It's not a monetized channel. I'm not getting paid to record myself and talk about my business. It's just kind of that. I will say I do make money on social media, not necessarily YouTube, but that's that. And I appreciate Brunt also. They give me products, boots and hoodies and certain things. Brunt's a fantastic brand. I've gone through dozens of different boots over the years. 15 years of business. From remodeling houses to construction to tiling to all sorts of different things, landscaping. To cutting wood, and Brunt offers a pretty good product. I love their boots. I have 2 different boots, one loggers type boot, and then Brunt Marin, I think. So absolutely fantastic. They sent it to me, and it didn't cost me anything, but I was really appreciative of this company sending me those boots, and I just felt like it was worthy of putting on my sawmill. Like Wood-Mizer hasn't paid me $1. I have there's 125 million views on Instagram of all my videos. That means I showed 125 million different people with this logo on on all my different reels and all my different, situations. So it's like, they haven't paid me $1. I don't use their blades, okay? I don't use their blades, like, I don't necessarily, I don't need anything about them. I love their machine, they're a great product, but they don't necessarily like sponsor me or like take care of me in any way. They gave me a Wood-Mizer banner. I've gotten a few blades here and there from, a few favors that I've done for them and stuff, but as far as like them, like doing any type of financial contributions for me, it's not there. I think it should be because, I put my machine and the videos in front of a lot of people. I love what I do. I love the Wood-Mizer. It's a great product. Others seem to sponsor me. So yeah, God bless you guys. This is a small YouTube channel. It's like 1,500 or 1,800 subscribers here. I was really happy. Like a year and a half ago, like I didn't have enough subscribers to go live. Like I had like 750 subscribers. I think you need like 1,000 subscribers to go live. And like I finally got 1,000 subscribers, so I started doing like a live post like a year ago, and I kind of faded out. I didn't do it that many times, but for the past 3 or 4 weeks, I've tried to go live and just kind of talk about the Wood-Mizer. And I will say, if you have any questions, put the questions in the comments, and I'll answer them on the next live. This is a red elm burl. That's going to be a pecan burl. I have lots of walnut burls. Max diameter of log this can cut is going to be like 32.5. That's going to be like the max width cut on this particular machine. It's not 34, it's 32.5. This was made in 2020. I think these machines now, if I bought this same machine, I think I would be able to achieve a 34-inch cut. But unfortunately, I'm telling you, I can only produce a 32.5-inch wide cut with this machine. It's not 34. I promise you. I wish it was so bad. So that's one thing I've always questioned. It's like, why is my machine 32.5 max cut, and these newer machines, LT40 wide, 34-inch cut? I think that's the case. I've been told that a few times, and like that's not frustrating to me. It's like, I want that extra inch and a half. I'd pay $1,000 right now for an extra inch and a half. Let me know. Pay $1,000 for an inch and a half? Yeah, for sure. I have a 34-inch throat. That'd be super nice. But yeah, this machine can only cut 32.5 inches wide, 20 feet long. If you need a 30-foot log cut, I can cut a 30-foot log. Just know you're probably going to have to be there all day long, and there's going to be many steps and many, I would hope you have a skid steer with forks and many other things that need to go into cutting 30 or 40 or even 40-foot logs into beams and stuff. It can be done, but it's very challenging. Any log in the state of Oklahoma, I can cut for over 230 people. Yeah, I love what I do. I don't know what else to say, but I need to go live because that's just kind of what I want to do. So I try to go live once a week, either on a Saturday or Sunday, talk about the sawmill, talk about the situation. There's just a few things going on here, nothing much. Like, you got the sawmill, 78 minutes. This is the longest live stream I've done. See, those are the big boys. These have been cut since 2020. Nice slabs. And then, just random slabs. Like, it's been cut for 4 years. So it's like a $200 piece of wood, 160. And this is the Wood-Mizer. 500 plus hours on it. Yeah, here's just knocked over a few things. That's the chainsaw. So that's my primary, and that's like, I'm only busting that out if it's, if you're ready to get like active. Like the only time I'm going to bust out that sawmill that has that blue shirt. That blue shirt's one of my son's blue shirts. If I'm gonna bust that sawmill out, it's gonna be because my hands are freezing cold and I don't want to put the chain back on, or I don't want to sharpen the chain on one of those sawmills. I just want to grab a saw that's ready to eat wood, and that's my most favorite thing to have in my hands is going to be a saw that's ready to eat wood. I love sharpening the chainsaw. I love seeing nice long shavings that come off of that blade. I just love eating wood. If I'm not eating wood with a sawmill or with a chainsaw, I would say that sawmill is probably my second favorite thing to do. The most dangerous thing, I probably have like 10 minutes worth of leftover things I need to do for preparation for my sawmill, but I have to cut Monday. My favorite thing to do is going to be the chainsaw and then the Wood-Mizer, but the most dangerous thing I feel like is going to be the cant hook. Depending upon, just like how you're using it and where you're positioned with it. Like the cant hook gave me like 12 stitches. Like I actually there's some crooked things going on. Like I have scars and stuff. Like it whacked me in the face. I should not have any teeth right now, and like I should have had like some severe damage. But yeah, it whacked me really hard. Like I was trying to alleviate this really heavy log from like encroaching on my hydraulic line on the sawmill. Okay, so like there was a flipping and there was some things going on that needed to happen for this log to be positioned for it to be cut. And during the process, I was taking quite a weight. Let's say it was like 780 pounds, and I had that situation right here, and I had buddy assist on the hydraulics, and the cant hook whacked me in the face, and I was bloody everywhere. And the job wasn't finished. I left to the hospital and got stitches, and I came back in like 3 hours and finished the job and put my sawmill home and took a shower. It was a very long day, but rewarding day. A good lesson to learn that even like the smallest thing, just like the maneuvering the logs, can hurt you. I remember when I was in the woods like 6.5 years ago, I was falling walnut trees, and this is before chaps and this is before helmet. I remember a fat, dead. Thank God it wasn't that heavy, but like it was a big log, but it was very decomposed, hollow, degraded log, and it fell right on me. I was following this tree, and it fell right on me, and I had this. Thank God I was able to, I always leave. Anytime after a face cut, plunge cut, I'm not standing by the stump. I'm usually getting out of town. I always have an exit strategy before I fall a tree or before I put a tree on the ground. I have exit strategies because it's very, very important. But yeah, anyway, so like that situation laid on me, no helmet, nothing, and it drew blood on me in my face and stuff like that. And I was still able to get out, tree, went where we were supposed to go, and I was just like, I still didn't wear a helmet for 2.5 years since that. And ever since that, Nate's been in for like 5 years. He insisted, I got a helmet, and so I got a helmet and chaps and stuff like that. So just trying to be more like cautious about just the environment and like even like that limb. Earlier in the video I talked about if you're falling a tree and there's stuff up in the canopy and there's dead standing limbs and stuff, and they're brushing up against other limbs, and those limbs are going to start falling. I consider it like the dead zone. You have to just know what's going on when you're doing that. So that happened to me. It was a very important lesson, and I learned a lot through that. I think safety is very important. I wish I could pull them all out, but all my gear is all pulled up, like my chaps, helmet, my boots, all my protective gear. Sawmill doesn't necessarily require much. You need blades, oils. This one's diesel, so you need diesel fuel. I would say ATF, certain oils I like to, oil my, my rail with, and then you got a grease gun, and then you gotta change the oil and a few other things. You need to learn how to do the alignment with this. There's times like I don't know exactly the blade you're running. Are you running an 1.25 inch, 1.5 blade? What's the thickness of your blade? You need to set those different, parameters, of your blade into your machine, so you can adjust for your curve and all those different things. So assuming you know how to do all those things, and make sure you're having accurate cuts. Let's say if I tap my situation down, I'm cutting 5/4, tap 5/4, tap 5/4. If there's anything off with that, like you need adjust it, and if there's anything off with your sawmill not running properly, you need to figure out how to adjust it. Are you going to take the haul and take it to Wood-Mizer, location that's a few hours away to get it adjusted, depending on whatever those prices are. I've never paid somebody to work on a machine. I've had 2 different machines. I currently have 2 different sawmills right now, but I don't pay people to work on machines. I fix it myself. And so you just need to, taking that into consideration. Like, how are you gonna fix this? How are you gonna learn about alignment? You're gonna watch YouTube videos on figuring out how to align your blade. You're gonna get tension this way. Your rollers, you're gonna offset a little bit. What's going on with your drive belt? Your tension proper? Are you not getting contact? Your hydraulics not working? Like, you got your little flaps in there that need to be adjusted. Like, so many different things. Your chain, like, your power feed belt just broke. What are you gonna do? You don't have any more B57 belts on you. It's like, what are you gonna do? So it's like, I personally, I'm about to end this. I'm pretty tired. It's been a long day. Like I said, my wife had an event today. She started, we have 4 businesses. She started, we got there at 11 o'clock, left at 2. She sold out. Every product we made, she sold out of, and we were stocked up. If I would have done it again, I think she calls me push pop manager. If we were to do it again, we wouldn't run out. We would have 100% capitalized on it because we would have excess stock to fill her cart to fulfill the customer's needs. Thousands of customers wanted her goods today. Thousands of people got her goods today, and we couldn't supply tens of thousands of people. So that's an issue with me. I'm going to solve that issue for her. But yeah, it was a very exhausting day. She killed it with her ice cream business. Her little push pop thing, ice cream cart, and I'm looking forward to cutting wood for people. And I was like, man, I need to go live. And I was like, I don't really want to. I was about to leave. But I decided to go live, guys, and this is my business. Follow along if you want to. Unsubscribe if you want to. Like my video if you want to. It's cool. Jesus Christ is Lord, and He's my Savior. God bless you guys. Enjoy your day. Yes, sir.